In today's video, we will be looking into the history of Eomer of Rohan. Let's get into it.
Build me a throne worthy of Mordor.
Éomer, the third Marshal of the Riddermark, son of Éomer, was a tall man, a similar stature to that of Aragorn. He was, of course, portrayed by Carl Urban in The Two Towers and The Return of the King, and the character has remained popular for readers and cinemagoers alike 20 years on after Two Towers' initial release. In today's video, we intend to look at why that is, what makes the Rider of Rohan so memorable, and gives him a unique and distinguishable character amid such a large host of persons, which could lack variety and subtlety in the hands of a lesser author. Professor Tolkien understands the culture of the Rohirrim and identifies it with that of an old northern courage. The idea is similar to the Nordic berserkers of the Norse national epics, the Prose Edda, Beowulf and the like, which to his greater shame had no kindred in his mother tongue. The inspiration drawn upon in the creation of The Lord of the Rings shows the diversity of its author's thought, his deep reflections on myth and its purpose, and the questions he explores on leadership, courage and virtue. A character that embodies each of these is Éomer, so let's see what made him the man he was at the time we meet him in The Two Towers. So Éomer was born in the year 2991 of the Third Age to his parents Éomer and Theodwyn, Éomer being a Marshal of the Mark and Theodwyn being the sister of Theoden King. His father would only be around until he was 11 years old after an orc raid took his life, with his mother falling to an illness not long after. This led to both he and his sister being orphaned. However, none other than the king himself took them both in as if they were his own. So early in Éomer's life, he had to deal with a lot of drastic loss and changes within his life. Éomer would grow to become the third Marshal of the Mark, and if you're interested, this is how the Marshals of the Mark worked. There were three of them. The first of them was the highest rank, and they were in essence in charge of the Riders of Rohan. This was the role Theoden had. But once Grima's poisoned words came into play, it caused Theoden to never choose his replacement. The second and third Marshals were, at the time, Theodred, Theoden's son, and Éomer respectively. These two roles had no fixed duties and were simply there to be of use to the king when needed, but either way, still a respectable title to have obtained that also showed his level of skill and leadership within his people. Éomer would spend most of his time defending his lands against any orcs that came their way, but in the end, many of his battles came from within. By the words of Grima, Éomer became distrusted by the king, which, although it hurt Éomer, he knew not all was right and there was more than simply met the eye. No twisted words could destroy the love he held for his adopted father. Éomer would continue to defend his lands and even meet Boromir as he made his journey to Rivendell, learning of his prophetic dream about the ring. It was after this time that more of Saruman's minions became a problem for his people by fighting openly against those of Rohan. However, Éomer and Theodred would not take this lying down and put in a great effort to lead their defences. When the first great battle of this conflict came, the Battle of the Fords of Isen, Theodred was slain, meaning that Éomer lost the man that was as close as his brother. But this did not defeat Éomer. This drove him on to defeat the evil. It is from here that we then meet him in The Lord of the Rings, where he runs into the group of orcs transporting Merry and Pippin, and then shortly after he would also meet the three hunters. So I won't go into repeating that story. However, what I think would be good is having a little look deeper at his character from a couple of instances in The Lord of the Rings itself. Éomer is distinct from, but not unlike Aragorn in a way, though he is less serious and more given to the practicalities of life than the abstract concerns of lawmasters. In the follow-up to the siege of Minas Tirith and leading up to the Battle of the Morannon, there is a debate in Chapter 9 of The Return of the King, which takes place with the leaders still among the living gathered in Aragorn's tent and discussing the choices before them. Their arrayed on the war council was Prince Imrahil, who called the meeting and sought after Éomer when doing so, as well as Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli and the sons of Elrond respectively. Gandalf explains the situation before them as he sees it. Things look bleak, and the world of men hovered on the precipice. Like a flame in the driving when that bends and flickers but holds despite the odds, Gandalf tells them. "My lords," said Gandalf, "listen to the words of the steward of Gondor before he died. You may triumph on the fields of the Pelennor for a day, but against the power that has now arisen there is no victory. I do not bid you despair, as he did, but to ponder the truth in these words. The stones of Sion do not lie. and not even the Lord of Barad-dûr can make them do so. He can, maybe by his will, choose what things shall be seen by weaker minds, or cause them to mistake the meaning of what they see. Nonetheless, it cannot be doubted that when Denethor saw great forces arrayed against him in Mordor, and more still being gathered, he saw that which truly is. Éomer responds to this in a manner befitting to who he truly is. "As for myself," said Éomer, "I have little knowledge of those deep matters, but I need it not. This I know, and it is enough, that as my friend Aragorn succoured me and my people, and I will aid him when he calls, I will go." This is remarkable for a number of reasons. Not least of all, Éomer maintaining a sense of humour in spite of the threat arrayed against them and the degree of peril they find themselves facing. He has, at this point in the story, taken Theoden King's place, when he was crushed beneath his horse when it reared in the presence of the Black Captain. Like I said, Theoden was like another father to Éomer and his sister Éowyn, and in a time where he might otherwise be driven to grief or lose his composure entirely, as Denethor had done when he committed himself to the pyre, an honourable man with the right intent can be brought low by the pits of despair awaiting the presence of the Nazgul and accompanying fell beasts, a nightmare to face in battle. But Éomer leads the Rohirrim with courage and distinction and prepares to make his final stand. With the forces of Prince Imrahil of Dol Amroth, Gondor and now Rohan combined, they still lack the pure numbers that so often bring an advantage. We get the impression this moment is something that has long been in Éomer's mind since first he heard the songs of his people in Theodred's halls at the Meduseld. He has made peace with the black shadow that hangs above us mortals, and recognises what lies before him is only what is expected of every king of the Mark who came before him. To make a good death before his foes and exit the world while dragging a few enemies down with him. We can see as much in the final song sung by those of Rohan at the farewell of Theoden. Out of doubt, out of dark, to the day's rising, he rode singing in the sun, sword unsheathing. Hope he rekindled and in hope ended, over death, over dread, over doom lifted, out of loss, out of life, unto long glory. When the debate concluded, the plan they settled on meant that they would ride out on the second morning with 7,000 if such men can be found, and the majority of soldiers are to act as infantry. Aragorn is tasked with bringing 2,000 of those he gathered from the south. Imrahil was to find 3,500 and Éomer 500 only of the Rohirrim, and worse still, would be unhorsed. Éomer would ride out with the 500 of his best riders. You can really see here that no matter what, Éomer was this true soldier and man of honour, even if you take away his greatest asset, his riders. So with that little deep dive done, let's have a recap over what Éomer got up to after the Lord of the Rings. So after the funeral of Theoden and wedding of Éowyn and Faramir, Éomer began his true rule as king. He scrapped the titles of the second and third marshals, instead replacing them with Marshal of the Westmark and Marshal of the Eastmark, giving those titles to Erkenbrand and Elfhelm respectively. Now, although Sauron was defeated, not all evil had disappeared in an instant, so the Oath of Eöl was often called upon, being the alliance between Gondor and Rohan that was relit with the beacons. So Éomer would go often by Aragorn's side to tackle what darkness remained. All in all though, Éomer was a great king in leading the recovery and rebuilding of Rohan, and he would eventually take on a queen too, being Princess Lothiriel, daughter of Prince Imrahil of Dol Amroth, and they would eventually have a son, Elfwine the Fair, in the early years of the Fourth Age. Éomer's time as ruler would be coming to an end, but he would remain friends with Merry of the Shire throughout this time, with both he and Pippin coming to visit just before his passing. However, he would pass on in the year 63 of the Fourth Age, having ruled over Rohan for 65 years, being the second longest serving king Rohan had ever had. He could truly be proud of his life and achievements. So there we have it, a look at the life of Éomer, both before and after the Lord of the Rings, with a little bit of a breakdown of character for you in the middle. Éomer is one of my favourite characters from the story, and I think this video shows why that may be. He was a tall, strong leader of men who, despite mounting odds, would always charge from the front into any battle if it was for the right cause. He had a bit of Númenórean blood in him coming from his grandmother, so his 6'6" frame made him stand a head taller than many of the others in Rohan, and this just amplified the way he was. He took many hard losses in his life to only drive him on to bigger and better things, and when he finally came to his time as ruling king, it is hard to say that there would have been a better choice for the role. Éomer the Blessed, the true marshal of the Riddermark and king of Rohan. So time has now come for my question of the day, which is, Who is your favourite king of Rohan? Éomer, Theoden, Helmhammerhand perhaps? Or someone else entirely? Let me know in the comments down below. And now it's time to shout out our patrons. You guys are supporting our short film. We are making great progress and we cannot thank you enough. I'd like to give a special shout out to the Divine Power tier members of Kevin and Abram, the Fire Demon tier members of Nashith and Gregory, and the Wizard Staff tier members John, Andrew, Jennifer, Hunter and David. You are all true legends of the Brohirrim. Finally, if you've managed to reach the end of this video with me today and you enjoyed what you've seen, please hit that subscribe button and bell icon with notifications ticked as well, so that you know when all future videos go up. So thank you for spending your time with me here today. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.